guys, how's it going? So today we're going to be making some wreaths out of mostly foraged things from our garden. And this is the time of year that I love. I love to be able to do these sorts of projects, kind of sit back and enjoy the fruits of all the labor we put in, because it seems like all we've been doing for months and months is just planting, and now we get to do some really fun decorative things. I don't really have a vision for how this is going to go. In fact, I don't even know what I'm going to gather out in the garden. I'm just going to walk around with my cart and hopefully find some really pretty seed heads, maybe some hydrangeas to dry. The only two things I have here that did not come from my garden that I might use are some magnolia leaves. Look at these. I think they're so beautiful. I ordered these last November for holiday arrangements, and I had quite a number of them left over, and I thought I'll just let them dry and then maybe use them this like late summer, early fall in some things. I love the back side of the leaves, even more than the front sides when they're dark green. I love the velvety deep brown. I think they're so beautiful. And then I saw these at Joann's the other day. So there's some kind of grass seed head that have been dyed, clearly, but beautiful, absolutely gorgeous color, very autumnal, which is what I'm in the mood for. This is an 18-inch grapevine wreath. And then I've got a few other things here, hot glue, which is what I will be primarily using today because of how many items I'm going to use that are dry. Paddle wire doesn't work with dried items as well, in my experience anyway. This is 24 gauge paddle wire. If I do end up using that, then I've got my Felcos, and then I've got a few of these little vases. I don't know what they're called. You see them used, like florists use them sometimes, but they're for a single stem. So you fill this up with water and then pop your stem in, and no water will leak out of them. But I thought if I could get some hydrangeas that have some good color. We've got some mini Mauvettes in the backyard that I think have a really pretty tone that will lend itself very well to an autumn type arrangement. But if I can use those and kind of tuck these in, you know, behind other things, you won't see the vase, but you'll be able to see the beautiful hydrangea bloom, and then hopefully they'll dry really nicely. So anyway, I hope this turns out. What we need to do is just run out into the garden and start cutting some things. Wreath is done, and we decided to put it on the back sun porch door because a couple of reasons. Decided not to make two. It took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, and then I don't have enough of these mini Mauvette hydrangeas to create a second one that would look like close to identical. Not that they'd have to be identical, but all the rest of the blooms that I have out in the garden are more along the lines of this tone and lighter even. So I really did use up a lot of the blooms back there that still had some color left. But I think it ended up turning out really pretty. Like, I didn't scout the garden at all before this project. I just knew that normally this time of year there's a lot to gather from, a lot of seed heads, a lot of pretty things. So I thought, well, it won't be a problem. I'll just run out there, we'll gather some stuff up and we'll see what happens. I did not end up using any of the Scarlet Curls willow branches that I cut from the tree. But what I did use were the mini Mauvette hydrangeas. These are kind of like dried Firefly peach yarrow blooms. I never cut the plant back because I think they're really pretty dried. And they kind of almost look, well, here's one that's a little bit more aged, not aged, a little bit more fresh. And before it turns this color, they're a really beautiful orange. But I got a couple, like the dried one and then kind of the pale yellow. I've got Strawflowers that came out of the cut flower garden. I harvested these earlier this week and they're already dry and they maintain their color really well. We've got Maestro Sedum here. There's Sweet Romance Lavender. We've got seed heads from the Midnight Masquerade Penstemon. I never cut that plant back after it's done blooming because it just creates the most gorgeous purple little pods. I love it. The Golden Rain pods right here from the tree, and Pinecones from the Blue Spruce, Echinacea seed pods. There's just 5 of those. I only had 5 out in the garden that were ready to be picked. And then the other 2 things in this wreath that did not come from my garden are the Magnolia that we already showed you in the beginning of this project, and then the little dyed seed heads, which brought a lot of color between the hydrangeas, the grass seed heads, and the lavender and the Strawflowers. There's a lot of color and a lot of activity going on. I did not have a vision for this wreath. I thought it might, though, end up a little bit more wild or natural or open, I guess. And it did end up being fairly compact. And I don't know, I think it just took on a really fun late summer vibe. All of these things that I picked, even though they were fresh, like the hydrangeas, are in those bud vases. I don't know if that's what you call them, but none of them have wilted yet, so we're good there. They should just dry in place just like this, and then everything else should dry and maintain color. So this should look good for a while. And the last thing, I did end up using mostly wire. I used a lot of wire to connect little bundles, and then I kind of filled in the gaps with hot glue, and I think it worked out really well. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this project. I just kind of wanted to show you the process to maybe get your minds thinking of what you could be looking for in your garden that you could use in maybe a different way that you hadn't thought before. So instead of cutting stuff back right away, maybe look at it with a critical eye and think, like, could I incorporate that into some sort of wreath or cut arrangement or something like that? It's always fun to experiment that way. And sometimes you succeed and sometimes you don't. And that's just the name of the game. And it's just fun to practice and try it out. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.